Combs has been sentenced to more than 4 years in prison. Over the summer, the music mogul had been found guilty on prostitution-related charges. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman was in the courtroom today in Manhattan and joins us now. Katrina, thanks for being with us here tonight. Going into today, there was the potential Combs could have even been out within weeks. So how did he react when he heard that sentence?
You know, Nancy, what was notable was how little reaction there was. He looked down at his hands. They were clasped in his lap, and he just looked defeated. The same with his family. It was very quiet in that courtroom, very solemn, and it was a drastic difference from earlier because this day stretched on for a really long time. Many people spoke in court, his attorneys, and most notably his children. That was extremely emotional. They were crying. They were talking about how much they respect their father and how hard it has been for them to not have him around, especially his children who lost their mother, Kim Porter. His lawyer, Nicole Westmoreland, also broke down crying when she talked about Sean Combs. She said that he had changed her life. And then Sean Combs himself got up and spoke in court. And he said that what's been really hard for him during this trial is having to be silent, not being able to speak on his own behalf. He said that his actions were disgusting, they were shameful, and they were sick. He said that he's not a larger-than-life person. He is a human being, and that he got lost in the excess, in the ego. His voice was shaking. He was crying today. I saw him wiping tears from his face in court. And he ultimately said that he is humbled and he's broken. He said, "I hate myself right now," before the judge and before this sentence came down.
So, Katrina, prosecutors, though, they had wanted this sentence to be 11 years. What did the judge say when they actually handed this down?
So ultimately, the judge decided to give him this sentence of 50 months incarceration, 5 years of supervised release. And this is actually lower, it's significantly lower than what the prosecution wanted. That was about 11 years. And then the probationary recommendation was 7 years. Now, Sean Combs' team, they wanted only up to 14 months. So he did end up getting significantly more than that. What the judge said, though, is he began when he delivered this sentence by very warmly talking about all that Sean Combs has accomplished, the things that we heard today, how devoted he is to his family, how he broke barriers as a Black man, his entrepreneurship. But then there was this shift in tone, and he got very serious, and he ultimately said that there was just an overwhelming amount of evidence in this case. The actions that Sean Combs took against his ex-girlfriends, Cassie Ventura and a woman who went by Jane, who testified in this courtroom, the violence, the psychological and physical abuse against them. And he said that he had to give a significant sentence for the purpose of deterrence and because he believes that Sean Combs still could potentially pose a danger. He thinks that he needs more time in prison, but said that he will ultimately get his life back on the other side of this.
Katrina Kaufman, thank you for your reporting throughout this process. We appreciate it.
The courtroom was tense, thick with a silence that felt almost alive, as if the walls themselves were waiting to inhale and exhale.
If you love true crime, real interrogation breakdowns, and cases that haunt the mind, every killer has a moment where the mask slips. Every crime has a detail that refuses to stay hidden, and every secret eventually claws its way to the surface. If you want more stories that expose the truth behind calm faces and silent rooms, support the channel with a like and subscribe. It seems small, but it keeps this darkness lit for those searching for answers. Subscribe to Grave Secret now.
Sean "Diddy" Combs, the man whose legacy shaped music culture for decades, sat no longer at the top of an empire but in front of a federal judge. His designer suit, his diamond ring, his aura of power, none of it held authority here. Once, crowds screamed his name. Tonight, even whispers felt heavy enough to shatter glass. When the judge finally spoke, the words fell like a hammer onto history itself. 50 months. 4 years and 2 months behind bars. The cameras that once flashed across red carpets now captured a fallen king surrounded by cold marble and unforgiving justice. Some people watching cried, swearing this day would never come. Others whispered that it should have come years ago. Outside, the world reacted like fire meeting gasoline. Social feeds exploded, news anchors raced to break updates, fans defended him with shaking voices, while others sighed with relief, justice, finally in reach. And as the news spread across continents, one truth became clear: the higher the fame, the louder the fall. This was no ordinary sentencing. This was a cultural earthquake. If you're watching this, take a moment, subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, because the story only deepens from here. Like this video if you feel the weight of this moment, and share it so more people witness what power can become when walls close in. Tonight, we peel back a life built on music, luxury, and shadows. Tonight, we begin with the verdict, and follow the trail backwards into secrets, testimony, and the empire that cracked from within. The trial unfolded like a long-buried diary finally pried open, page by page, with ink made of testimony and tears. What the world thought it knew about Sean Diddy Combs, the mogul, the icon, the untouchable king of hip-hop, began to fracture under the weight of witnesses who had carried silence like chains for years. The prosecution spoke first, their voice steady but sharp, detailing stories not of fame but of rooms where the music stopped. They described private jets, luxury hotels, doors that shut behind trembling bodies, and nights built not on celebration but control. For many listening, it was like hearing two versions of the same man, one crafted for stage lights, the other hidden in velvet shadows. The testimony from women who once smiled beside him in photographs now trembled through the courtroom like broken glass. One spoke of being flown across state lines for events she never agreed to. Another recalled dim lights, forced encounters, the smell of expensive cologne masking something rotten. Videos surfaced, proof that silence was no longer enough to shield him. A hallway recording, grainy but undeniable, showed violence in motion. Gasps rippled like shock waves. The defense tried to frame it all as consensual nightlife, as messy relationships blown out of proportion, but the stories aligned too closely, too painfully. If you're still with me through this unraveling, hit like, subscribe, and share, because the deeper we go, the darker this becomes. And you deserve to hear it fully, without interruption, without sugar. This isn't gossip. This is testimony. This is evidence. With every session, more details leaked, past associates surfaced, old rumors dug themselves back to daylight. What had once been whispered in hotel corridors traveled now through microphones, transcribed into history. And this was still only the beginning. The courtroom crackled with a mixture of dread and finality as the judge prepared to read the sentence. For years the name Sean Diddy Combs meant platinum albums, sold-out shows, luxury, power, but today it stood for accountability. Judge Arun Subramanian rose, his robes heavy with the weight of more than just legal duty. They carried the voices of survivors, the echoes of testimony, and the consequences of decades-long shadows. He spoke plainly. The two convictions, for transporting individuals across state lines for prostitution, were not trivial. The crimes, the pain inflicted, the exploitation, they demanded punishment. Combs, who had already spent months in detention since his arrest, looked on. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between shock and resignation. He had denied the worst charges, racketeering, sex trafficking. The jury cleared him of those. But the jury also found this: he had used wealth, fame, and his connections to orchestrate freak-offs, drug-fueled encounters involving women and escorts, forced or coerced, in hotels across states. Then came the sentence: 50 months behind bars, a $500,000 fine, and 5 years of supervised release. Credits applied for time already served would shave off roughly a year, but still, years ahead, locked away. The judge paused, looked toward the gallery, toward the victims. "I want to say first we heard you," he said. For many in that room, but also for those watching around the world, it was a moment of reckoning. Justice, delayed, painful, had arrived. Outside the courtroom doors, flashbulbs burst. Reporters scrambled for statements. Some wept. Some stared in stunned silence. The king of hip-hop culture had been dethroned, stripped not of his fame, but of his impunity. If you're watching now, hit subscribe and like, we're far from done. Next, we go beyond the verdict, into the fallout, the suits, the survivors' voices, and the cost paid by many lives. The world outside the courthouse shifted almost overnight. Headlines screamed, Diddy sentenced to 50 months, fallen mogul loses empire, justice for survivors. The shockwaves rippled through music, business, social media. Everywhere someone once wore his name like a badge now turned away. For a man whose image had been luxury, success, invincibility, suddenly his legacy was unraveling in real time. Brands cut ties. Collaborators vanished. Past associates reviewed contracts, business partners washed their hands of anything connected to him. Wealth, fame, influence, nothing could shield him now from consequences. Families and friends who once clamored for red carpets now faced security threats. Survivors from the trial publicly voiced relief that the verdict was final. Some said it felt like a heavy weight lifted, though scars remained. Others said this was only the beginning, that the powerful shielding once granted would crumble under scrutiny, and more people might finally speak up. The court of public opinion erupted. Some condemned the sentence as too light. Others saw it as the first real step toward accountability in an industry often silent about abuse. Even within celebrity circles, reactions were raw. Rivals pulled no punches, mockery mingled with caution. One longtime enemy publicly gloated over the downfall, another warned others they were watching now. In the streets, in clubs, in comments sections, the narrative around him changed. He was no longer hip-hop royalty, but a man convicted, a name now tainted, a symbol of what can go wrong when fame masks power. If you're watching this now, don't turn away. Like this video, subscribe, and share, because stories like this matter. Because when powerful people are brought low, it's a reminder that no matter how deep the roots of fame, shame can still reach the surface. Prison walls have a way of shrinking a man's world, even one who once moved continents with a song, a brand, a whisper. Inside the federal facility where Sean Diddy Combs now wakes each morning, fame means nothing. The guards don't bow. The gates don't open for platinum plaques. Concrete replaces marble. Silence replaces applause. Meals slide through metal slots, and the world he once shaped continues spinning without him. In the outside world his mansions stand still, his businesses without their king, his name like a cracked monument that people pass and stare at, some with anger, some with pity, many with disbelief. History had once crowned him untouchable. Now history writes him differently. Survivors breathe, but not with celebration, with relief. Those who once hid behind fear, contracts, or glamour now speak more freely, healing slowly from the harm tied to a man they once trusted. Fans remain divided, some refuse to let go of the legend, others say the music sounds darker now. But the truth is this, every rise has a shadow, and the deeper the climb, the longer the fall. His 50-month sentence will one day end. Gates will open, and he will walk out, changed or hardened, reclaimed or rejected. But nothing restores a legacy the way it once was. Not money. Not apologies. Not time. Tonight we close this case, not with celebration, but with reflection. Power can elevate, and it can destroy. Fame can crown, and it can blind. A king fell, and the world watched it in real time. If you've followed this story from chapter 1 to now, like this video, subscribe, and share so more eyes open to the lessons fame never teaches until it's too late. This is Graves' secret. And this is how the empire of Sean Combs collapsed.